Now, going back to our cultural fusion topic, right? Again, growing up in the 80s and 90s, we saw a bunch of shows where, I mean, there was no focus on black or white, right? We had like shows like Different Strokes, where it was a white rich man somewhere, I don't know, upper east side of New York City, where adopted two black children, right? And hysterical show. I mean, I tuned in every single time there was an episode for that. That's what I grew up on. Already mentioned Family Matters, Fresh Prince, Different World, right? The Cosbys, the Jeffersons. I mean, we have examples from the time that you and I were born, all the way into the time that we're into young, older teens, into adults, where like it's just normal. It's normal. It's not even, hey, this is a black show. Hey, this is a Hispanic show. Hey, this is a white show. It was just a show.
And anyone could watch it. Cosby Show, great example. I think the cast was mostly black. And after, I forgot what day it was on, after that show aired, every single day, everybody was talking about what happened on the Cosby Show. And not one time ever do I remember anyone talking about this being, I don't even remember anyone even saying it was a black show. Even Martin.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was just a show.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So, and those shows are actually kind of dangerous now. I think, like even the X-Men and the 90s animated series, one of the greatest animated series ever. That show brought in politics, not like cultural hot topics, but like almost like Star Trek: The Next Generation. Like big topics of liberty and authoritarianism and freedom and free speech and ostracizing people. And do you think they want little kids watching cartoons like that now as they try to force them to take medical procedures?
No, dude, I'm so afraid. So they're rebooting that series. It's called X-Men 97. And supposedly the guy who's in charge of this is some Trump-hating leftist. So I just imagine it's going to be another woke, woke message type of thing that I you know what, I've just lost so much interest in Marvel and DC that I can't, I stopped buying their stuff. They lost me as a customer.
I'm excited about the Rippaverse. Shout out to Eric July and Gabe El Taib. He just announced that he signed a contract with them again. And if you don't know about the Rippaverse, we've talked about it. But last I saw, his revenue is $3.5 million. First comic book, 96-page comic book.
I selected all three cover types. I purchased them. I'm giving them to my boys, the teenagers. I'm gonna give it to them, and they can have it as memorabilia. And the more stuff that comes out, that's where I'm gonna divert my funds to. Dude, let me tell you, I would spend. I don't know how many kids you have. I know that you got a wife and kid. Two, right? Okay.
Two. Yep.
I normally spend about anywhere from $50 to $100 every time I would go to the movie theater. That's how big of a family I got. Mm-hmm. And that might be a drop in the bucket to these companies, obviously, but for an individual, that's a lot. And think about every movie that comes out. At least 10 movies a year at the very least that I would take my kids to go see, and we would do that regularly. And then I purchased the DVD or the Blu-ray when it comes, and then download it onto to have it streamed, and so on and so forth. So I would invest a good amount. Guess what? I'm not doing it anymore because I'm tired of their narrative, their agenda, and the stuff that they're pushing. It's not what I grew up on, and it's not. And here's the thing: you go well, Carlos. It's the change. The thing is that we had this cultural fusion back then. There was no need to hyper focus on all this stuff, and by hyper focusing on it, honestly, it takes away from it. The fact that you got to mention something is this that, it actually takes away from it, and now it turns me off. Do it naturally.
Yeah, it's forced. You can feel it's forced. There was this Lord of the Rings that just came out. On Rotten Tomatoes, they still have not posted the audience score to my knowledge. I checked this morning. They know it's going to be terrible. The expert score, whatever they call the experts, was like 96. I'm wondering when they're going to release that. And I bring that up because I'm like you. I am spending my money with people who don't hate me. I know that sounds crazy, but for example, I bought Jeremy's razors. It's just a razor. I don't need the razor company to love me. And he did that in the ad, this Daily Wire Jeremy Razor's ad. If you don't know, the owner of Daily Wire, the Harry's razors dropped them because they were having conversations about a political topic they didn't like. They weren't hurting anybody. They didn't do anything illegal. It was just a topic they didn't like. And then they tried to make a big grandiose virtue signal out of it. So Daily Wire is like, if you didn't want to do business with us, just drop us. We didn't need all that. So now we're going to do our razors to compete with you. And we're going to tell people you don't have to believe what we believe in. They're just razors. And I'm like, yes, I'm for that. And we can change this. I bought 2 Eric July comic books, 2 posters. Hopefully I'm going to put one up. I'm going to do like a little set here and have one up here. And I'm buying that. I'm not buying anything Marvel. I'm not going to the movies to spend $20 on a popcorn, and that might change the direction of the country. Hopefully.
Yeah. We definitely got to stop investing. I posted this last year. So we got to stop investing in companies that hate us and are really going against us, and support companies that are biased for us, right?
Absolutely. You've got to be very conscious of where you spend your money. My biggest area of opportunity, Amazon is so convenient. Amazon is so damn convenient. I can't tell you the last time I even went to like Walmart. Seriously. Because it's so convenient to be like, I just need this lotion or whatever. I'm literally just doing it on my phone.
That's like you and my wife. She gets a package here like almost every day.
Every day, and we don't even know what the package is. Like, oh, it's just another Amazon package.
So here's what I wanna show you. I was looking at this. So you remember the show Saved by the Bell?
Oh, one of my favorites, man.
Man, my favorite.
Beautiful show. Great show.
Absolutely. I'm going through it with my boys since they're teens, right? They they can relate to it now because they're along the same age, even though the times are different, right? But dude, you had I don't know what Jessica Spano is. To me, I think that her background is Spaniard with the last name Spano. I don't know. Mario Lopez was obviously Hispanic or maybe Italian. Yeah. I don't know. You had Lisa Turtle, who was black. You had Zach Screech and then Kelly Kapowski, who were white. At no point was it ever strange or abnormal that Lisa Turtle was, it seemed like, one of the richest kids on there. Both of her parents were doctors. They were brain surgeons or surgeons of some kind, right? And at no point was her skin color ever a focus, or the fact that she was there amongst other white kids, or that the other minorities were there with other white kids. It was completely absent. The entire focus was just on the fun of the show.
Yep. And their lives and how they came from different backgrounds, and they were all relatable in different ways. And they all were flawed and all had strengths. I don't remember the race thing being an issue at all. Maybe it was. I don't remember it at all.
No, it wasn't. I can tell you because I've seen every episode and every season like more than once. The only time they touched on something of race was when they were doing a family tree. And it turned out that Zach remembered, or he found out that he actually had Native American blood in him. And so he had to do the report, and he dressed up in his Native American outfit. And then Lisa found out about one of her ancestors that was a slave, and he created some type of an underground passage to help the slaves get free, and so on and so forth. And then Lisa, she does research, Lisa was the one who did the slave family member who was helping other slaves. Jesse's family member apparently were slave traders, and she was so embarrassed. She was so hurt that her family, that she had this dark spot in her family. And I actually got the video, so let's check it out so you can see it.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that one. Wow.
Due to copyright strikes from NBC, I'll have to narrate the next section. We're going to take a look at a clip from the original 90s Saved by the Bell. In this particular episode, the classroom was being given an assignment to do a background check on their family tree. We start the scene where Lisa Turtle is expressing and explaining how her ancestor Abraham used to take slaves from the south and escape them through a route or a tunnel that led up to the north. Very proud Lisa Turtle showed that they originally called this the original Soul Train. The teacher was very pleased with the report, and she goes, discovering pride in our background is what this assignment is all about. I think Abraham would be proud of you today. You're getting an A, end quote. And then next is a reluctant Jessie Spano gets up and begins to give her family background, where she rushes through and she names that her family were transporters. They transported goods, spices, lumber, and people. And so, having caught on that, the teacher asks what kind of people, where she embarrassedly admits that they were slaves. So her family ancestors were slave traders. She's ashamed, rightfully so, and she asks Lisa to forgive her. And well, Lisa wonderfully explains that there's nothing to forgive. She had nothing to do with that, right? So as we move forward into the next section, towards the end of the episode, Jessie can't live with this guilt, and she asks that Lisa find some way to forgive her. So Lisa Turtle tells her, you're being ridiculous. And so she goes, no, just tell me how I can fix this. So Lisa ends up proposing, how about you buy me a car? And Jessie then explains a new car, that's ridiculous. And she goes, so is this entire thing. I have to say how wonderfully expressed this entire scenario was back in the 90s. It epitomizes what the 90s were about. It epitomizes that even though there were mistakes in our country and in our past, however, we've gotten beyond that. We've come to a place where, like these two individuals, we've become friends, and they hug it out.
And
they pretty much they hug it out after that. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Man, that's you think Saved by the Bell might be like a corny little stupid show. That just shows you the power of having to control media. I mean, to me, that's a power. I mean, that's maybe I'm corny too, so maybe it's just me. But that I felt some kind of way watching that. Especially considering like where we are now. Oh man.
Exactly. And oh gosh, I had to look for it on YouTube. And let me tell you, when there was a person who loaded the video and was commentating on this episode, dude, the amount of comments that were so ignorant, it just blew my mind. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are we really this far gone? Like, they were calling Zach a racist. And that one person even said he had to come out and apologize for this episode. Like, why? What did he do wrong? If the character has a native, first of all, he's not in charge of the show. So if somebody were to apologize, I wouldn't think it would be him, because he's just the employee. But there's no need to apologize for anything. Nothing was disrespectful towards the Native American community. If anything, it was honoring. And the guy had a background had an ancestor that was Native American. I don't understand it. It blows my mind.
It is, man. It is. To me, that's why I started the channel, man, because this is about control. And if we just sit back, we don't have the luxury right now of sitting back and saying nothing. Like, oh, it's just how things used to be. We're just getting old. And no, this is a whole different, this is about control. This isn't just an organic new generation view something differently or something like that, or they like different music. No. This is a control. This is a method of population control. And I don't think it's possible. I don't think they're trying to do this in America. I don't think it's possible. The American spirit is just going to live on. It will not go away.
Agreed. Now, let's look at the contrast. I was pretty excited when I heard that they were redoing a Saved by the Bell, a reboot or something like that, right? I don't even know what the proper term of it is. I was pretty excited at first, but then I thought to myself, oh gosh, it's NBC. Oh, it's going to be woke disaster. And sure enough, it was. Based off of the trailer, I was like, I'm not watching this. There was a moment where the girls are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're here, where everybody's rich and so on. And there was two minority girls. There was one. They were both Hispanic, actually. One's Dominican, and I don't know where the other girl was from. And I'm like, why shouldn't you be there? Unless you're literally coming across the border now, that I could understand that you don't have the means to be in a school where maybe there's a high income, right? But I'm a first generation American. My kids are going to a high income school. Why? Because both myself and their mother we're professionals. We make good money, so it's not alien at this juncture. But anyhow, check out this contrast now. Here we have, and I'm gonna give you the setup for it. We've got the actress who's Dominican here, and her teacher is Spanish. It's in Spanish class. Apparently, she doesn't know Spanish as well as she should. And the teacher is apparently from Spain, so it's the origination of the Spanish language. And so there's a little interaction back and forth where she actually ends up calling him a racist. But let's go ahead and check that out.
Oh my.
Fast forward to the new rebooted or new modernized version based on today's social construct and woke culture. We have Saved by the Bell. In this particular episode, one of the students named Aisha is going to decolonize her Spanish class. In this case, Aisha appears to be from Dominican background. Obviously, she's of dark skin complexion, where her teacher seems to be from Spain or have learned Spanish in Spain, and he's the teacher. Now, in this particular episode, they're having some type of a discussion or role-playing scenario where they're role-playing how to speak proper Spanish. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say that the Spanish language originated from Spain itself. So this gentleman is actually speaking proper Spanish. Every other Latin country does not speak it properly and uses certain words or phrases that they have made up along the way. Such in this particular case where what's going on is she's saying that she's going to be going to the mall and she's going to be buying a purse. But she asks the teacher, she wonders what type of a purse she should get. The teacher responds, and in Spanish, he says, I don't know. Perhaps cuero? Cuero means leather for every single Latin American country except in the Dominican Republic, where it could mean an insult. It could mean that you're referring to the woman as a whore. Now, it all depends on how you use it in context. If you call somebody a whore, then obviously you're calling them a whore. So in essence, if I were to say, tú eres una cuero, tú eres un cuero, right? I'm saying there, I'm referring that specific insult to that person, but by saying and specifying the type of material a purse is made out of, cuero, which is the right terminology, is not an insult. So this person is completely wrong, and whoever wrote this episode is extremely divisive, especially be it that the teacher is correct. He is trying to teach proper Spanish and not street Spanish, which I myself, being of Cuban and Peruvian background, we have words that are they're street Spanish, words that are invented, words that other countries do not say. Every country has its certain dialect. You cannot change the entire language off of one country's differences. That's not how it works. But because we're in this current woke culture, in this episode, unfortunately, the teacher, due to him being of white complexion and from Spain, European, was deemed racist, thus being fired. This is where our current society is, and there's a huge difference between what was happening back then and what is happening now. So, I mean, a huge difference from the sweet, fun Saved by the Bell to this woke garbage that we're seeing here. Let me get your thoughts before I comment.
Man, that was really bad. And I see what stood out to me was an attack on masculinity as well. Like, you can be, and nothing against if the teacher, you can be respectful and still discipline someone like a teacher should in that case. That was an attack on masculinity, making the female student in control of the whole situation that's the principal? Was it the principal's office? From the principal's office to the teacher to the other, students, she was the head honcho. It was the same feedback, same ideology that they gave from the Star Wars series that came out. I think it was the Obi-Wan Kenobi one, where all of a sudden it was a black woman who was and there's nothing wrong with that, but to me it seems like it comes at the expense of everything. Good writing, common sense, masculinity. That's a disaster. That's programming. That's indoctrination. That's not a TV show.
Yep, absolutely. What's interesting here is what's frustrating is the injection of all this woke stuff into it, right? Because we didn't have that in the original series. And to be quite honest with you, this is massively incorrect. Because like I said, Spain is where the origination of the language comes from. And most people, when they go into a profession, like if you look at professional news anchors, right? They don't speak slang Spanish. It's incorrect. We try to speak proper Spanish. Every country has its different dialect, right? But the correct word to say leather in Spanish is cuero. Just because they changed that word in Dominican Republic, and that's the only place, because I don't think that word is used in the Latin American countries. I think it's only in the Caribbeans, and more so specifically in Dominican Republic. Just because they use it doesn't mean everybody now has to stop using it because it's offensive to one island. That's absurd. And then to call it racist and so on. I mean, everywhere is just bad.
That is a disaster. And you see how I was ignorant to that. Had no idea to what you just said there about leather in Spanish and all that. And I watched the show and I assumed that part was true. I assumed, like that clip you just played, I assumed that all of that was true. So you see how you play this stuff to children, and that's where it's really targeted at, and then they just assume like that's how you're supposed to act. That's what's true. That's how things are supposed to be.
Yeah, if you look right here in Google Translate, you put in the word leather and it comes out cuero, because that is the actual word of leather in every single Spanish country. Like I said, now in her case, Dominican Republic, they took the word and they changed it to mean something else. Well, that doesn't mean the rest of the world, or especially the rest of the Spanish world, is going to stop using that word because you guys decided to change it. Every country, and I've shared with you guys, I'm part Cuban and part Peruvian from my parents' side, right? The best, honestly, out of all the Latin countries, the ones who speak closest correctly to Spaniards would be Venezuelans and Colombians in certain areas of even within those countries, right? Because each, like the southern part has a different dialect or accent from the north. It's the same thing here in our country, right? The northern people speak very differently than the southern people, or there's a slight accent difference. And then you get on the west coast, you've got the other side that sounds slightly different even more. It's the same thing in all the Latin American countries. But the point to call it racist and colonizing and all this woke garbage is frustrating. And I'm glad I didn't watch the rest of this show, to be honest with you.
Oh, I can't watch. I literally can't make it through this stuff. It gets me upset. It's not enjoyable. I'm like, I'd rather watch a news story or something to educate myself.
Dude, I'm going to show you one more clip, and it's to show you the cultural infusion that you talked about. And I experienced this in the bank that I was working at up in New Jersey. It was predominantly black, I would say about 80%. Maybe the other 15% or maybe more was Hispanic, and then maybe less than 1% was white. And we would do this in between calls. It was a call center. But check this out.
Fletcher, think you can find out what's on these shreds?
Of course.
Oye, señoritas. Listen, we're thinking about ordering a little bit of lunch.
Should we put you down for a bucket of extra crispy and a couple of grape sodas?
Couple of grape sodas?
That's very funny.
Isn't it low tide?
You know, I think it is.
Don't you have some relatives to pick up?
What? Yo, now you crossed the line, man.
Okay, no,
That's not funny.
That's what cultural infusion was. Dude, we would joke. We would make racial jokes back and forth with one another, just like this. And we would laugh. We would laugh because it was all a joke and it was just good friends. And I feel like we've lost that. I think that scene cannot be placed in a movie today and age without triggering and offending somebody.
You know, Andrew Schultz, the comedian, I think he's one of the funniest comedians out there. And he had on his show a transsexual, adult star. And they sat down and they were talking, they were laughing. It was one of the best podcasts I've ever seen. So I'm like, if you want to bring people together, they were poking fun at each other and all kinds of stuff. Like, that's how you do it. You don't do what Saved by the Bell did there with this forced wokeism, and it doesn't even feel natural. It doesn't make any sense. If you have children, you teach your child, there's things that you say as slang that you don't say to get a job. So you need to have the skills to be able to be professional when you need to be. And that's the lesson you could teach in that Saved by the Bell, but no, instead they kind of teach a different lesson.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh,
and then
humor. It's humor.
Oh, what was that?
It's humor.
It is.
It's okay.
Absolutely. But you can't do that now because you'll get canceled.
No.
The left wants to, like you said, take away your ability to speak, take away your ability to give your view, or my gosh, if you promote traditional values, you're canceled.
Yep. And I give a shout out to check out Andrew Schultz. He's really, because comedy has hurt like so bad. That's why a lot of these are comedic writers who write these scripts and stuff, all these little jokes. Comedy has been really hit hard, and he's one of the few ones. So what he had to do was kind of go independent and did like a pay-per-view on his own to be able to do what he wanted to do.
Yeah,
non-woke.
And the problem is that I think this all started as early as maybe the 2000s. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I grew up on hip hop, and there was a song by J-Lo, and if I'm not mistaken, Ja Rule was the person who wrote it. And in that video, or in that song, she actually says the N-word. And so she got a ton of backlash for it. Now mind you, I mean, if we're going by today's standards, she's a person of color, right? But because she's not part of the black community, obviously she's Puerto Rican, she wasn't allowed to say that. And so she apologized to the people who got outraged, and she was like, look, I didn't write this. This was written by Ja Rule. He wrote that word in there, and I just sang it because that's the way that he wrote it. But she had to come out and apologize. And then you have the apology train from every person that comes out. You had Kevin Hart apologizing for his comedy towards gays or whatever, and it just continues to roll on. And so what they've done is they've empowered these people to shut them up and shut them down anytime they get offended.
Yep, it's an easy way to shut people down because then you get afraid to say anything. Recently, Sydney Sweeney, she's just an actress, just some random actress, and her mom had a 60th birthday party. She's white, her family's white, and she posted some pictures. And one of the pictures had "Make 60 Great Again." It looked like the "Make America Great Again" hat, but it wasn't a MAGA hat. It looked like it. Then some random dude was wearing a Blue Lives Matter shirt, which is typically support for law enforcement. It wasn't her. She wasn't wearing it. It was just random pictures from her family. They skewered her on the internet, made her have to come out and make a statement. That's why I say you can't ignore this stuff. You got to speak out now, because by the time you're forced to speak out, that's a rich person who's worried about her job and getting canceled. What about you? No, we got to speak now and say, I can have an opinion. I can like whatever the hell I want to like, and you don't force me to change my mind.
Absolutely. And we can see who cancel culture is really targeted at. It's targeted at white people. It's targeted at conservatives. Definitely targeted towards the Christian community. It's targeted towards men, which you touched on, and it encompasses heterosexuals. Again, if you're doing something that's normal of traditional value, if you're promoting that, the left doesn't want that. To your point with the BLM site, how they wanted to divide the family nucleus, that's traditional heterosexual stuff there, and they don't want that. They'll shut you down for that.
Yeah, they're cutting down the core of like the country. And I mean, if you're doing a group called Black Lives Matter and you don't value the family structure, doesn't mean you can't have a different family structure. I'm not saying it has to be a traditional one, but you don't have to attack a traditional family structure. I don't know if you saw Colonel Alan West a while back, a few months ago, went to the University of Buffalo, or a university in Buffalo campus to speak. And what was he going to speak about? The importance of a father and a mother at home. And he's protested he's one of the most distinguished black people in our country, right, alive today. He's protested by black people and students. They're yelling Black Lives Matter to this black distinguished guy who never did any beef, never said anything bad about them. It's insane.
Been following Mr. Allen West since, gosh, I want to say 8 years now. Awesome dude. Love his how he thinks. Obviously served in the military. He's a traditional guy. Promotes this stuff, and very similar to what Larry Elder says about the nucleus of the father and the absence of fathers leading to the decay of our society. So they're absolutely on point and the same page, and I think Candace Owens also agrees with the both of them.
Yeah, if you don't value that, that's fine. But why are you attacking it? It's a whole different thing to say like, oh, you're just talking about traditional family values. I disagree with the importance, and you just don't do anything. And, just let him go to the university and speak, and you don't show up. But if you're going to go there and protest, why would you protest against traditional family values? Does that make any sense?
They hate it. They hate it. Honestly, this is my own opinion. I think if you look beneath the multitude of layers at the end of it, it's basically an anti-God movement. Anything that God says because if you think about it, even if you're not a religious person, but you understand that our country was built and founded on Judeo-Christian principles, right? Love your neighbor, don't commit murder, don't steal, don't lie, etc. Right? 10 Commandments type thing, right? And who was the originator of marriage, right? God created man and woman, Adam and Eve, which they absolutely hate that. They don't believe in that. No, there's no man, there's no woman. What is a woman, right? Now we've gone to that stage. No, God did not create man and woman. Okay. God created marriage. No, God did not create marriage. We want to be promiscuous. We want to do everything that we want to do. Well, okay, that's great for you, but you don't have to force it on everybody else, and you don't have to demonize those types of things. What it is again, it's in my opinion, at the bottom, at the end of it, it's a movement against anything that is traditional that really comes from that Judeo-Christian background.